Hi, I'm Dr. Eva Selhub, and just to let you know a little bit about me, I'm a board-certified internal medicine doctor, and I've also been working in the integrative medicine field for almost 20 years. My field of expertise is really taking all the information and knowledge from wisdom traditions, from spiritual traditions, or Eastern traditions, if you will, and combining that knowledge, those belief systems, those practices, with our Western traditions, our allopathic medicine. And what I found when I brought this all together, and I've worked with my clients, and I just want to step back a bit and say why I call my clients clients, not patients. And patients to me mean a person who is suffering, who's looking for someone else to fix them. Clients to me means that somebody's coming to me to participate in their health, to co-create a better life. And what I've found from bringing these traditions together, both Western or allopathic medicine and these wisdom traditions or Eastern medicine, and bringing them together, is that I've found that every person has the power to heal. We have a brilliant, brilliant body that has an incredible healing mechanism within it, a natural healing capacity that if you give it a chance, can do its job. And that's what I want to talk about today, that we all have that power to change our health destiny. What I can tell you, which many wisdom traditions have said for a very long time, I'm not going to say anything new, but what I can tell you is we all do have the power to change. You're not your diagnosis. You're not your DNA. You're not your parents. You're not your past. Rather, you are a living, breathing system. You live in a living, breathing system. And these living, breathing systems are constantly changing. And that means that you have the power to change as well. The key to making this change a positive one is getting a handle on your stress. Now, what's important to understand is that without stress, you wouldn't create any change. You wouldn't be able to live. You wouldn't be able to exist. So stress isn't bad. And this is what's really important. Without stress, you would not be able to accomplish anything. This isn't about not having stress. This is about being able to use stress before it uses you. To be able to understand that you have the capacity to handle it and to create change that is beneficial to you rather than harmful. So the difference for you is to really understand the difference between stress that is manageable and stress that is not manageable. Because when you manage your stress, you create change that is effective, that brings you into a better place. If you do not manage that stress, you don't end up being in a better place. For instance, let's say that you have chronic pain and you can't find a comfortable position. Not only will that pain be a constant stress that is bothering you physically, but it's also going to bother you emotionally and psychologically. Not to mention it's going to affect your ability to concentrate or listen and be able to pay attention to me. And then of course any judgment you have towards me or doctors or what I'm wearing or what I look like, that's going to come forward too. It's going to affect your attitude altogether. Not only that, but your brain is going to go back to the past to figure out, how did I handle this in the past? And it's going to look at every other time in the past you've had this negative emotion or this negative thought or this negative physical experience, and that's going to bring all of it forward again and make it that much worse. The reason being is, in order for you to exist today, your brain has to go into the past to figure out how you handled a stress in the past. And if that stress was manageable in the past, it'll do what it did before and do it again. For instance, you didn't know how to climb the stairs. When you were a child, you learned. You fell a few times. It didn't really hurt. You got back up, you learned, and now you do it without thinking about it. But it wasn't something you were born with. You learned. And so through the course of your lifetime, from the minute the sperm meets the egg, you have series of stresses that happen over again, and new ones. And a database goes into the brain, into every cell of your body that says, I can handle this. I know what to do. Should it happen again, I'll be able to do it. It's deemed a manageable stress. You also have another database of stresses that weren't handled, that weren't taken care of. And it could be something from growing up in a home during a depression where there's no food, where you grow up believing that there may never be enough food or may never be enough money. Or it could be related to how you perceive yourself. It could be that you had a very critical parent. or you grew up in a situation where you might have been abused or neglected, or simply that your parents wanted you to be something you didn't want to be. So you might have grown up with feelings of low self-worth or a lot of self-criticism because that's what you learned. That's a stress too, and all that comes forward into your everyday life and affects how you then perceive the world, whether you perceive it as manageable or unmanageable. And what's important about this, I know it's a lot of information about stress, but what's important about this is when your brain perceives a stress, it turns on an automatic and unconscious response called the stress response, which then triggers physiological changes in the body that give you a signal to motivate an action. I'll give you, for instance, let's just say, like right now, it's cold outside, okay? And so normally, if the temperature was only a little bit different, just a little bit colder, your body would be able to pick up that change in temperature. Now, the change in temperature itself is a stress. But if the change isn't that major, the body will self-regulate. The brain will pick up the drop in temperature. It will then signal a change, a physiological change. The blood vessels will constrict, which will then allow the body temperature on the inside to match the temperature on the outside. So now we're back into balance again. So the body can self-regulate on its own. That's a manageable stress. But if the body can't self-regulate, that temperature just can't get into that state of balance because it's too cold, you're going to end up having a feeling, a negative feeling like feeling cold or shivering. That feeling you now recognize. As an infant, remember, you didn't have much of a brain. You would not have recognized that feeling. But now you recognize that feeling as cold. And you also have a database of tools that you can utilize to take care of that cold. You go and get something warm. You might put on a jacket. You might put on a hat. Now we have to put on gloves. And now the body can then regulate itself to match that temperature so it's back into balance in a state that is not threatening or stressful. But let's just say that you didn't have a coat or it was still too cold. Now we have an unmanageable stress because that stress is not being taken care of. That means the system is going to continue firing, trying to find a solution. So what happens is that we want to actually look at what are these physiological changes that are happening in the body, because this is how the body speaks to us. It speaks to us through changes in physiology to give us a feeling, to give us a symptom, so that then we can impose a reaction or action that will elicit the change that will bring us back into balance. And so the reason I'm telling you this is that when you become aware of these signals that come from the body, you can then make choices about what kind of change you want to do. Because a lot of the changes that we choose to do, the actions, are reactions or reactionary of things we've done in the past, even though they could be harmful. And I'll get to that. What does that mean? Because we can do things that are good for us, or we can do things that are harmful. For instance, you might feel anxious, and your automatic then reaction is to go eat some ice cream. Now, the ice cream will make you feel better, but it doesn't take away the reason you're anxious to begin with. Okay? And eating a lot of that ice cream eventually will be harmful for you. So it's first good to step back and look at what is the body trying to tell me. So let's look at the stress response. All right, the way I like to explain this is to ask people to imagine. So imagine you're being chased by a lion. Now, if you're being chased by a lion, is it a good time to take a nap? No, I don't think so. So what's happening is adrenaline and cortisol, which are stress hormones, are flying through the body, going into the brain, and telling your brain, stay alert, stay hypervigilant. Not a good time to take a nap. Is it a good time to reproduce? Not a good time to reproduce. So your hormones are being shut down. We call them the gonads peripherally, and also the hormones in the brain, shutting down those reproductive hormones, saying, not a good time to reproduce. Is it a good time to forage for food? That is unlikely as well. So what happens is that signals are sent to the digestive system to shut it down. We're shutting it down, which means slowing down of the movement of the colon or peristalsis, There may be uncontrollable contractions of the esophagus. Maybe that individual might experience heartburn or other types of symptoms, nausea, to deter you from eating. What else? If you're being chased by a lion, what do you think is going to happen with your muscles? What do you think is going to happen? So what's going to happen is you're going to get ready to fight like mad or run like heck. So the lower back will stiffen, the neck will stiffen, shoulders come up. Now you want to look intimidating to grimace, right? And you'll look like a wrestler. Now I don't want that recorded for too long. So we want to be able to pounce. So your body will automatically tighten, getting ready to get rid of whatever that danger is or get away fast. Now you're going to need energy. You need energy to fight like mad or run like heck. That energy has to come from the body. So the body is going to do what we call opposite of metabolism. It's called catabolism, which means breakdown. The body will start breaking down its resources to give you the energy you need to get away, to do what you need to do. Maybe it's fight. So that means the liver is going to break down glucose or sugar to provide you with sugar. It's called gluconeogenesis. It's going to break down fats to create the fat you need for energy, or fatty acids, called lipolysis. Your bones will break down to provide you with the minerals you need. Muscles will break down to provide you with the protein and amino acids that you need. You're also going to need oxygen for energy, so you'll breathe faster. Now these nutrients need to get to the larger muscle groups and the brain. They need to get there quickly. Remember, this is life or death to your mind and body. This is about survival of your species, of getting into that state of balance. So in order for that to happen, the blood has to move faster. That means the heart has to pump harder, it has to pump faster. So you're going to have an increase of cardiac output and an increase in the force with which the heart is pumping and how fast it's beating. Now you don't need fine motor skills, right? You don't need fine motor skills to fight like mad or run like heck. So what happens is the blood flow is going to shift away from your fingers and toes, what we call shifting away from the periphery to go to the central nervous system and the larger muscle groups so that you can get away. And we have something else that's happening, and that's your immune system. Now, if you get cut or wounded, you don't want that wound to bleed. You don't want it to get infected. You don't want a foreign body getting in there. Remember, this is not conducive to your survival. So what happens is your immune system is getting ready. It's getting ready for a signal. White blood cells are marginating, waiting for the signal to start an allergic reaction or to go fight an infection. So we have a heightened immune response, a heightened inflammatory response, while red blood cells are waiting for a signal in case they need to clot so that you don't hemorrhage. So this is what we call a heightened inflammatory response during the stress response. And of course, the adrenal glands will continue being stimulated to produce those stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, so that this can continue, the physiology can continue until such time that it's not necessary anymore. The other thing I want to point out is what's happening to the brain. So you have a higher brain, you have a lower brain. The higher brain does your executive thinking and functioning, helps you do rational intellectual thought. And if you think about it, if you're being chased by a lion, it's not a good time to do your taxes. So what happens is that this lower brain is literally sending signals to your higher brain saying, shut down. It's like a horse with blinders. You need to go from point A to point B, and all this other stuff is irrelevant. So you literally start becoming, I guess, more stupid, if you will, but not that that's a great word, but you can't bother with any of this other stuff. You really have to figure out how to solve this particular problem. So if you look at this physiology and you start listening to it, you might think, well, geez, this sounds like it's terrible stuff. Why aren't we getting sick more often? And that's the reason is this isn't terrible stuff. Because in the short term, this is good for you. This stress response is what helps you keep you alive. It gets you out of bed in the morning. It helps you do all the things you want to do in your life. The thing is that it's only a beneficial change. The physiology is only beneficial when it's short-lived. That means it's used to motivate, to initiate an action that will solve a problem. When the problem is solved, the stress response extinguishes itself, it gets turned off, and the system comes back into balance again. That's what I was calling allostasis. So if you look at this lower graph here, this is what we'd like it to look like, where we have a problem, the stress response rises, then it falls back down again, and we have a period of rest and recovery. When we look at resilience, we don't look at whether or not you can, beat a stress. It's looking at bounce back. How do you recover from a given stress? Do you have what it takes to then take on more? Can you say, I can handle it? Now, I don't really know many people that live in this lower graph. I know fish do. Okay, I know that when I've gone fishing, I've caught the same fish 3 times, and I keep wondering, why does he keep coming back? Because he doesn't really have much of a memory. So he has kind of, I guess, a stress, and then he goes back in the water when I throw him back, and then he's back for more. But that's because they don't have much of a brain, I suppose, to think about the stress that's happened before and the stress that will happen again. But most of us live here in this higher graph, where we don't even start at a low place. Why? Because most of us aren't rested when we wake up in the morning. And most of us go to bed with worries. And worry, by virtue of being a worry, is an unmanageable stress because we don't know what the solution is. And so then you go through your day, which is filled with stress. But not only that, it's also the food that you put into your body. You put something that creates inflammation or is foreign, like processed foods or chemicals, your body doesn't recognize it. That's a stress. Or let's say you haven't gotten enough sleep, or you're worried about your relationship, or you're worried about your job, or it's cold outside and you don't like that either, you're just in a bad mood. All this stuff accumulates. And what happens is your mind and body system, consciously and unconsciously, starts perceiving the world and its stressors as unmanageable, until that stress response that you heard about fires and fires and fires and fires, and then the system breaks down. And when that breaks down, all those physiological parameters can become pathological. You have heart disease, problems with your immune system, which is pretty much everything, mood disorders, memory problems, arthritic problems, the list goes on and on. Every pathology you can think of is a result of the breakdown of this system. So it behooves us to get out of this top graph and learn how to get into the smaller graph. And that means learning how to change our lens, to start being able to perceive the world as manageable rather than unmanageable. Again, this isn't about not having stress. It's not about that. This is about being able to perceive stress as manageable. Saying, should this happen, I can handle it. And the key here is perception isn't just about what you consciously perceive, about what you tell yourself. It's about your body, every cell of your body knowing it's strong enough. I can handle this. Your perception is going to be affected about how you wake up in the morning. If you didn't get enough sleep, you're going to see your day very, very differently than if you did get enough sleep. The same situation could be manageable versus unmanageable. You could wake up with a bad mood. That negative emotional state will automatically drop you down into that lower brain category. So you're more likely going to be in fight or flight mode or in stress response mode than in I can handle it mode. So perception happens on many levels. And in order for us to start looking at that perception and how to then shift that perception into one that's more positive, one that's more resilient, we can do several things. We want to look at what are the underlying beliefs. How do I see myself within the larger context of this world? Am I enough? Do I have enough? What are my usual paradigms? When is it that I get triggered? What triggers me? What makes me fall overboard? What helps me feel better about myself? The next thing we can look at is your emotional state. Do I have control in changing my emotional state? Because when I'm in a positive place, I tend to be more positive about what I can do, what I can handle. When I'm in a negative place, the opposite is true. What is it that I can do about my emotional state? And the other thing we want to look at is what I call infrastructure. The infrastructure are the things we can do or you can do in your life to help you not only feel stronger emotionally and psychologically, but your body unconsciously will feel stronger because it's been given rest, it's been given good nutrition, it's been given fuel. And that fuel then gives the body, the mind, confidence to say, I can handle it. I like to explain infrastructure as a dam, for instance, a dam for stress. So a dam, let's imagine it's constantly taking in rainfall. And if the dam doesn't have outlets, it's eventually going to break. The breaking means going into unmanageable stress. So let's just say we give it outlets. That means it can rain all the time. But the water never overflows, the dam never breaks, because there's always outlets of relief. Now those outlets are things that we can do for ourselves to help create resilience. And if you want to think about what these outlets are, you can just think about what did our ancestors do. It's very logical, really. Now, when the sun went down, what did we do? We slept. What do we do now when the sun goes down? We turn on the light. What did we do when we were tired? We slept. What do we do now when we're tired? We drink caffeine. So turning on the light and drinking caffeine and ignoring the body's needs, the body's going to say, this is an unmanageable stress. Not only are we putting substances in the body that it doesn't need or want, but we're also denying it the rest it needs. So not only is the stress becoming more expansive, larger, more stressful because we're tired, but we're also initiating other stressors that are making it fourfold, fivefold, or maybe more. So sleep is only one of the outlets, but one of the most important. Exercise, which I think is actually a funny term that we've given, because our ancestors probably didn't have a word for what they did. It was called survival of the fittest because the fittest and strongest person got to the food first. That's what allowed them to survive, was being fit. If you weren't fit, you would be dead. So movement is important, that's an outlet. They also only ate what was naturally available. They didn't put processed foods or chemicals in their body. This is fuel, remember fuel. We need to be fueled to be at our best. But right now is what we're doing is our food isn't fueling us, it's just comforting us because we're stressed. You see how that doesn't work? To eat comfort food because you're stressed, it might make you feel more comfortable for a minute, but it's actually creating more stress as opposed to looking at food as fuel. Fuel that's going to help me so that I can handle my stress better. So those are just three things. We have meditation, we have spirituality, we have humor, we have play, we have passion, we have purpose. There's all different kinds of outlets that are available to us that research is now showing us is good for us, which is really funny in itself because this is what our ancestors have been doing for thousands of years. And this is why. It helps us be resilient. It helps our mind and body as a unit know that when stress happens, we will be able to utilize it to be at our best, not to let it affect us so that we can be at our worst. So how can we access this? What do we need to do? So I use mnemonics often because I find them to be very helpful. And especially in this sense, this is about being resilient. This is about being more powerful in your life. So I took power as my first mnemonic. What do we need to do? Well, we get so caught up in our lives. Everything's so stressful all the time. Stop, take a pause. What's really going on here? Let me become more aware. What's going on here? Did I get enough sleep? Did I eat the right foods? How am I really feeling? What's going on in my body? What is my body all about or my situation all about? Becoming more aware. Then witnessing. So witnessing is really important. Witnessing is about getting quiet and listening to what your body's trying to tell you. Remember, this physiology is happening all the time. It's letting you know that when you're not in balance before your brain even registers it. So pay attention. Here's an example. And you can do this in seconds. If you were to pay attention to your breath, pay attention to your chest or your body, thinking about what that physiology is. And then you think about something stressful. Think about somebody you're angry at, or a situation that you're anxious about or worried about. And notice what happens. What happens to your shoulders, what happens to your breathing, what happens to your chest. Think about that stressful situation right now and just notice very quickly what's happening. And then, see, I'm not going to have you do it for very long. I want you to think about a situation of awe, like the most beautiful sunset you've ever seen, or watching your child walk for the first time, or looking into the eyes of somebody you absolutely adore. And you'll notice right away everything starts opening up and slowing down. Just like that. Being in a situation of awe, everything opens up. I don't think you've probably ever seen a depressed person walking around like this, do you? It doesn't happen. So when you go into that negative state, everything shuts down. Your physiology shuts down like that. But you can open it right up just by changing the mindset, changing the focus. And we can do that by witnessing the physiology. And once we witness, we can examine it and say, why am I feeling this way? What are my emotions? What are my thoughts? What are my beliefs? What are the reactions that are coming from here? And then looking at our thoughts, our beliefs, our emotions, looking at what our infrastructure has been, and saying, what can I do to change this? What can I do that I can create a relief? How can I release what I'm feeling? How can I then create change so that I can restore balance into my mind-body system so that I can be more powerful? One of the easiest steps is to just pay attention to your breath. One of the things that I like to have my clients do is take a fist and to punch the air. Go ahead, do it now. And what you'll find is that you've held your breath. And that's what we do when we're under stress, is that we either go into shallow breathing or we hold our breath, which is sending signals to your brain that you're under threat, that's an unmanageable stress is present. And so you can flip that. You can create a release for the mind-body system to start restoring balance, to start becoming quieter so that you can become more aware of what's happening within you just by concentrating on the breath. A very simple exercise is that what I have people do is count to themselves as they breathe in and out, to have that exhalation be longer than the inhalation, to start inducing that state of relaxation. So what I have them do is count to 5 as they exhale, and then count to 3 as they inhale. And here's a for instance. So if you take a deep breath in, and then you exhale, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now if you do that several times, you will find that the system becomes more calm. The brain becomes more quiet. You are actually starting to tap into your higher brain centers. You can become someone who can think more clearly under duress. Your body will be getting the signal that everything is okay. Now, whether everything is okay or not doesn't matter. Life is stressful. We have situations that are extremely challenging. But we want to be in a place where we feel we can handle it, because then we have access to our higher brain centers. We have access to the fuel that our body can give us. When we go into unmanageable stress and stay there, we lose that access. Not only do we lose that access, but we become sick. So if you were to take this breath, and not only do it during times of duress, but actually do it for maybe 10 to 20 minutes a day, you start to meditate. You start to create what we call the relaxation response. And the relaxation response is the opposite of the stress response. It's like making the film go backwards, where we see a decreased heart rate, decreased blood pressure, decreased metabolic rate, better oxygen consumption, a quieting of the mind. You do this repeatedly every day. It's a carryover effect, like a drug getting into your system, where you can handle stress better, where you can create a stable state of mind more frequently, where you can lower your blood pressure over time, where your body can then heal itself. See, the thing here is if you're constantly under stress, if the body is constantly under stress, it's not being given the chance to heal itself. It's constantly putting out fires. There's no period of rest where it can rebuild and renew and then be able to take care of things. So if you do give it this chance to rest, whether it's through actual sleep or through meditation or the relaxation response, there's that period of quiet that the body can then rest and recuperate and then handle things more efficiently. And so what I like to give my clients is a technique that's also a mnemonic that I found enhances that state of power, that allows us not only to get quiet, but also to reprogram, to look at what are those underlying beliefs. What is it, where is that part of me right now that is saying that I'm not enough, and how can I change that? So bringing it all together, this technique can be done in the moment, or it can be done as a meditation on a daily basis to get that body to be more resilient. This is something that if you do regularly, it'll enhance your ability to make good decisions, to choose better foods, to choose better people to be around, to choose to sleep rather than drink caffeine. It's going to be something that helps you align with the belief system that says I'm worth it, I'm powerful, and I'm enough. And so what you want to do is imagine that you're calling out for a shield to help you at any given time that you want. You could even be just waking up in the morning and wanting to start your day like that. And that shield is actually coming from the sky above. These are golden rays of light that are shining down upon you. It's light filled with unconditional love and grace and wisdom and strength. And that light is shining down and surrounding you in a shield. And as that light is shining down, it's giving you the opportunity to slow down. Remember, the P from power is about pausing. So this is the same, it's slowing down. Remember, the O was observing, becoming aware, right? So we're honoring the way we feel now because we're slowing down. We're surrounded by a shield of light that allows us to be present with ourselves. We're protected. That light is creating a barrier between us and the rest of the world that is protective and loving and strengthening, so that we can just spend a little bit of time honoring the way we feel. What am I feeling right now? It's okay. I have every right to feel the way I do. This is how my body is letting me know what I need. And then the IE is very simple. It's inhale and don't forget to exhale. This is the breathe section. This is what allows us to slow down that physiology and start witnessing what's really going on here. Listen. In what way is the situation making me feel that I'm not enough or don't have enough? How is it making me feel less powerful? And the D is about making the decision. I'm going to decide right here and now to be more powerful. I'm going to choose to be enough and have enough. And that's usually the affirmation or the mantra that I have people say to themselves. I am enough, I have all that I need. Come what may, I have all that I need. And as you say those words repeatedly to yourself, I am enough, I have all that I need. Come what may, I have all that I need. And as you say those words, that light hears you and it starts moving through the body. That light moves into the mind, it moves into the heart, it moves all the way down to your fingers and toes, into every cell of your being, filling it with light, filling it with power, filling it with everything you could possibly need, strengthening you. Not only that, it's coming out of your heart, aligning you with other hearts, aligning you with resources, and connecting you with all that you need. It's a very, very powerful technique that is used by pretty much all of my clients, and it will help you get into that place of power. I am enough, I have all that I need. Come what may, I have all that I need. When we have that belief system ingrained within us, mind, body, spirit, we can handle anything. And when we believe that, our cells comply, our body complies. And then it is then able to then change the course of our destiny. If our genetics or our programming or our belief system has led us to believe that we're going to be depressed forever or going to be sick forever, doing these types of techniques, which is only one, but changing our lives, improving our infrastructure, getting connected with who we truly are, and in that power to heal, we can change the course of that destiny. We do not have to be depressed forever. We do not have to be sick forever. And we do have the power to be healthy and happy, but it is our choice.